This is the Nassuamen Hockey Podcast with James Nichols and John Zella. And we are live via our YouTube channel, Nassuamen Hockey Podcast, episode 62. I am James Nichols, and I'm here with John Zella. And the New York Islanders take a 3-2 series lead. They defeat the Boston Bruins in Game 5 in Boston and are now headed back to Nassau Coliseum to try and close things out. But before we get into the game and how it went and how the Islanders took this series lead, first I just want to ask my good buddy John, what's up, pal? How you feeling?
That's how I'm feeling. Let's go, baby. I'm ready to go.
Oh my God.
Love that. I'm taking the energy from Long Island, and we're putting it into this episode. After watching Clark Gillies smash a beer can, I will not do that. I'll not be doing that in my home. But I'm going to try to take a little bit of that energy and bring it here.
Yeah, absolutely. So 3-2 series lead for the Islanders. They win this game 5-4. Despite being heavily outshot, they took advantage of plenty of opportunities. So let's get to On the Island, brought to you by DraftKings. The second round is in full swing, and the action increases from game to game. This is where the contenders are separated from the pretenders. To give you some skin in the game, DraftKings will be offering free-to-play protocols every day of the basketball playoffs, offering players a free shot at up to $10,000 in total prizes. That's up to $10,000 in total prizes up for grabs each day. The best part is that it's free to play. DraftKings free-to-play pools are easy to enter. Just download the DraftKings app, go to pools, and choose from the wide variety of free contests for an opportunity to win cash prizes. All you have to do is answer a handful of questions around what you think is going to happen during the day's basketball games and track your results throughout the evening. Download the top-rated DraftKings app now and use promo code THPN when you sign up to get your free shot at up to $10,000 in total prizes every day of the basketball playoffs. Head to DraftKings pool page and get your shot at huge cash prizes. That's promo code THPN for a limited time only at DraftKings. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for more details. So, business is done. Now we go back to the barn for Game 6. That's going to be Wednesday. And let's talk about Matt Barzal. Whoo! Man, I said this before during the game. You know, he scores that first goal of the series for himself, and it's like it added 5 to 6 miles per hour to hit, on his skates. He's got a pep in his step right now.
Yeah, he looks great. I mean, it's just his strength was better, especially on that when he set up that goal for Palmieri last game.
Yeah,
he kind of regained his swagger a little bit. And this game is so much confidence, so it was good to see that he got it back. All it took was a goal. It took, as it was that simple. Just score a goal in the toughest league in hockey.
Yeah, and Kyle Palmieri gets on the board as well. He scores. Was it the second goal, the third goal of the game? Regardless, he gets on the board as well. Team leading 6th goal of the postseason. Currently leading the Islanders. That's pretty much everything that Lou Lamoriello wanted when he traded for Kyle Palmieri, was for him to, not only be a presence when he came to the Islanders via trade back in February, April.
Geez, it might as well be February.
It might as well have been February because it's been forever ago. But he wanted him to be a presence, and it didn't quite work out that way. But now here we are in the postseason where it matters most, and that's again, like I said a while ago, I wasn't going to judge this trade until after the Islanders season was done, postseason included, and we're seeing exactly why we paid the price for Palmieri and Zajac.
I think it's a lot like Pajot last
Absolutely.
season, where Pajot warmed up, early in the playoffs, and then really, he was hot throughout the rest of the time. He played really well for this team on both sides of the puck. They're obviously very different players, but it took Palmieri a little bit to get going, and that's fine. I mean, the pressure's on in that first round. You kind of band together a little bit. He did play the remainder of the season with the Islanders in the regular season, but they seem to be struggling at the end of regular season, which is a different problem. But they finally hit their stride at midway through that Pittsburgh series, and so did he. Did he have 3 goals in that series? And he has 3 goals in
I think it's
this
3 and 3
series,
right now. Yeah.
something like that. So it's good to see get his swagger as well and confidence. And even though the Pajot and Nelson seem to have flipped at some point in this game in the second and third line, it's good to see that the wingers are gelling together. And you got to give a lot of credit to Zajac. He kind of came in after not playing for he came over in the trade. He was getting time. He wasn't getting time. He was out of the lineup to start the playoffs. Wallstrom goes down. He's not a liability out there. He's playing well. He likes the structure. He likes that it's a veteran group. He likes that he's respected for his opinion or whatever, his ability to do whatever they ask him to do, and he's willing to do it. So both of those guys paying off huge. Yeah, it's huge.
Huge dividends. Yeah, you know, they're really both bringing the experience. They're bringing the veteran leadership to both the locker room and on the ice. Palmieri looks great. Zajac looks great. And you know, moving forward, you know, Wallstrom skated this morning at the optional skate. He might be ready to go for next game. So it really begs the question, what's going to happen? What's the lineup going to look like? Because as easy as it is to say, oh, just dump Komarov, throw Wallstrom up there.
We said that last time. I mean,
I
and that was the question, right? It was like, you know, does Zajac come out? Does Komarov come out? I don't know. I say you roll with this until it doesn't work.
You might have to. You might have to.
Look at what happened last year, right? It was, you know, one guy would come out, one guy would go in. It would be like, you know, whether it was injury or, you know, little things. Trotz only tinkers with it if it really needs it at this point.
He doesn't fix what's not broken, right? So, you know, even though we would love to say we want more offense on this team, well, they scored 5 goals tonight, and Komarov was part of that first line. So, look, the
power play, but
we'll get to the power play. That was fantastic, but you know, Komarov right now, he's doing all the little things right for the Islanders. You know, he's killing penalties. He's playing well on his own end. He's chipping pucks out. He's helping, you know, start the rush to the other end of the ice. It's all good things from him. And, you know, again, don't fix what's not broken, right? At this point, yeah, maybe, you know, if Wallstrom's ready, that's great. But I don't know. Zajac looks so good, man, in that spot. And you don't really want to mess with what's going on. The chemistry throughout the lineup right now, they're gelling. They're really gelling.
Yeah, the Zajac thing, like I said, he's definitely not a liability. He's another option there for faceoffs if needed. And Komarov is just being an agitator. He's getting these guys to get a little chippy, especially those first 2 lines that have all of the pressure. You know, I think the first 2 lines played like the last 8 minutes of the game.
Yeah. I
don't think I saw anybody else out there. And the Islanders are able to roll 4 lines. Cizikas gets a great piece of Pasternak in the neutral zone there near the end of the game. And Komarov just adds to that. They every single line. Pajot's throwing his weight around. Beauvillier does the same thing. Not the same. He's, you know, a smaller guy. So is Pajot. But to have really 4 lines where at least one guy's coming after you, and then one line of the fourth line just digging in.
Yeah,
that's tough if you're the other team. And it's crazy to think we're talking about the Islanders here, and we're not talking about the Bruins. This is a very huge role reversal as far as I see it, right? This is both of these teams. I was thinking about this during the game, and I haven't watched a ton of the other series, but I gotta think that, you know, the way that John Forsland, who, geez, if he doesn't sound like an Islander fan at times, I love it. I love that he's falling off the Coliseum. I see his comments on Twitter. It's fantastic. But this is definitely one of the better series. Like, people really seem to be enjoying this from what from what I can tell on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
This isn't a typical like, oh, this is really boring. You know, it's an Islanders defensive thing. It's 2 of the best defensive teams in the East. It's going at it.
It's become an all-out war. And you know, to add fuel to the fire, let's just, you know, I'm going to read you a quote from Bruins head coach Bruce Cassidy right now. It's a very well-respected management and coaching staff over there, but they sell a narrative over there, and that they are the New York Saints rather than the New York Islanders. So not just drama on the ice, but off the ice now as well, because, as I'm live tweeting the game and updating and everything, I got Bruins fans in my comments saying, oh, what's up with all these soft calls? You guys are getting these soft calls, like the referees are helping you, and we'll get. You know what? Screw it.
Yeah, well,
Let's
no,
talk about
we'll
it
move it
now.
up. We'll move it
talk
up
about it now.
That's fine.
There's been a lack of consistency from the referees in this series, right?
Color me surprised that
It's
the
been
officiating
awful.
is inconsistent.
Yeah.
Not at all in erring towards the side of safety in most situations. Yeah, color me surprised.
Right. And maybe towards the first half of the game, the Islanders maybe got more calls than the Bruins, but by the end of the game, they each evened out. And there was calls on both sides that were real suspect. That I know I turned to you and I turned to Joe in the middle of the game, and I said, "What was that call? That was real soft." The quote unquote slash by Eberle and the quote unquote hook by Pelech. First of all, after Pelech made an unbelievable defensive play on Pasternak, poke checking the puck away from him and getting him to and turning the puck over, and he was called for a hook, and there was, from what I saw, I didn't see a hook.
I mean, I think if the stick is just going in the hands, whistles are coming out of the pockets, which is very weird for a playoff series. I think, the bright side to this may be that at least they're being consistently inconsistent. Like if it's soft calls and you don't really know what's going to be a penalty.
Yeah, it could be.
At least we can sit there and go, it's not just against the Islanders, right? And Boston fans, if they can look at it this way, it's not just against the Bruins,
right?
Either. I did see someone who maybe it was Wyshynski. Somebody had tweeted out like, why don't they make over the glass penalty a subjective call? And somebody had responded like, yeah, give them more responsibility. They can barely get these other calls right.
Right.
It's wild. I think both teams had their opportunities. It's not like they didn't also have at least 3 power plays, right? I didn't even see what the stat line was for the Islanders penalties. So was it 3? It was 4, 3-4 at least.
Penalties for the Islanders. The Islanders had 2 penalties tonight. The Bruins were 1 for 2 on their power play. So
that's what I mean, they're usually
discipline. That's discipline.
It's discipline, and it's also the refs. They're gonna keep those calls within 1 of each other.
Yeah,
it's going to be 4-3 or 5-4 or 3-2 in this case.
And I hate that narrative that there has to be a makeup if there's a call on the other team that was maybe questionable. You got to start. That's got to change somehow. That's a discussion for another time. The bottom line is both teams had their chances. Like I said, the soft call on Eberle with the slash, the soft call on Pelech with the hook. Those are soft calls. But you can also argue that the Bruins non-call on the elbow by Richie on Mayfield, who was down on a knee, is pretty blatantly obvious when he went, he went down face first and he was in some pain. So,
that's what I mean by like, they're inconsistent as far as the safety aspect is concerned. Did the Scheifele hit happen after the last podcast, after the last show?
Yeah. No, that happened. I think it might have happened after. Yeah. It might have happened the day we recorded it, honestly, as we were recording.
Yeah, it's possible. So it's, it's the, like I said, consistently inconsistent, and don't really care about the safety. And we keep saying the same thing over and over. So I won't really give this more, but it's continually aggravating.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see how it shakes out back at the Nassau Coliseum Wednesday night for Game 6. But an interesting narrative this game, in Game 5, Trotz was not putting the lines in a blender, but he was flip-flopping his centers. And the 2 centers specifically he was flip-flopping were Peugeot and Nelson. And the reason he was doing this was because he kept before he switched them, the Nelson line had struggles against the Bergeron line. And Bruce Cassidy has the last change because they're at home. So, he was putting the perfection line out against the Nelson line, and they were struggling. They couldn't contain Pasternak, they couldn't contain Bergeron, they couldn't contain Marchand. You saw the second goal by the Bruins on Brad Marchand, and that second line was out on that. Listen, beautiful play by Marchand, but a weak goal to give up by the Islanders.
Well, Nelson was real soft on that. I mean, Pulak gets walked, but Nelson also was right there to make a play to at least try to lift the stick, and then decides to cut to the middle. There's no room to cut him off on the other side. He's at the net at that point. He's way below the hash marks. So that was a soft play. I saw it as Peugeot can win faceoffs.
Yeah,
so get him out there.
A genius move on Trotz's part is he puts Peugeot out on that second line with Beauvillier and Bailey, and Peugeot has been a pest, a thorn in Bergeron's side. Bergeron in this series, I think he's winning like 40% of faceoffs, which is unreal considering the fact that
when I turned the game on, which was late because I didn't know it was a 6:45 start. Different problem. Continue. I don't know when the games are starting. I turned it on 7:30. The first period was over. I was like, great, this is fantastic. Either way, when I turned it on, the Islanders were winning over 60% of the draws.
Yeah,
which against the Bergeron is incredible.
Right, because Bergeron himself in the regular season, he wins draws at like a 62 point something %. So
yeah, highest in the league over the last decade.
He's like top 3, if not first. So it's a big deal winning those faceoffs. Getting that puck possession, especially in the defensive zone, is a huge deal, especially against the perfection line. And now that they have a good second line, I was really looking at their roster and I was like, wow, they're a lot deeper after just that one trade for Taylor Hall. They're a lot deeper than I even initially realized. So, at the beginning of the season, I wasn't as scared of the Bruins as I, used to be. And now, or later this season, it changed because I didn't think that they were as big and bad as they used to be. But that one move to get Taylor Hall really changed things up. But
think about the same thing with Palmieri, right? Like that, even like forget about if Lee was in the lineup, but even without that, it still made a huge difference. And then you add in that Zajac can still play,
right?
And that Wahlstrom could be in and out of the lineup. That Komarov doesn't look awful on that first line throughout these playoffs,
right?
Yeah, and I won't go on too much of a rant here, but like thinking about the lineup and going against the Bruins, and even like looking at both of these teams, the hockey media has been dissecting this Toronto loss for a long time. Almost feels like a week. If it isn't already. And I was thinking about it this morning and I almost tweeted out, but I wanted to save it for the show and maybe get your opinion. The Islanders have when on paper, they have a talent problem. Even you can compare them to the Bruins. On paper, it's really, even if the Bruins are a little top heavy, it's not hard to say that the top end talent for the Bruins is better than the Islanders, right? I don't even feel bad saying that. That's not like that's pretty objective. Thinking about a team like Toronto and versus what makes a team like the Islanders or even Boston successful is that identity. They know exactly who they are. They're unapologetically, they're honest, right? Like they just play their game and they're not going to pretend they're something else. And there are teams like the Edmonton Oilers or the Toronto Maple Leafs or these other squads that they don't know who they are. There's just a lot of talent that's a mixed bag. And, I look at a team like the Islanders, they're just so confident in what they do.
I think the difference between, the Bruins and the Islanders and the Oilers and the Leafs are twofold. One, it's structure and coaching, obviously. We both teams have much better structure, much better coaching. But the other thing, too, is there's a lot of egos in the room with those Canadian teams.
That's organization. Like that's the environment, right? That's the whole, but like that's top down. That's your organization, like setting the tone,
right? And you have players like you have players like Nylander, Matthews, Marner, who all want the puck on their stick, and then McDavid wants the puck on his stick, Draisaitl wants the puck on his stick. Whereas you look at the Islanders and you look at the Bruins, and you have guys who know their role. And the Bruins have a David Krejci who he gets the puck, but he wants to give it to somebody to score a goal. The Islanders have the same thing with Barzal. He has the puck, but he wants to give it to someone to score a goal. Learning to shoot when he should, which is great, but the guys on these teams know their role, and that's what makes the difference. That's why these two are in the the semifinals for the conference, and that makes all the difference. It's the structure and it's the message in the room. Is everybody
I think, yeah,
knows their job and
the message in
what
the
to
room, the structure, the coaching, all that. I think it's just like up and down the organization. They just know exactly who they are, and that's why the Islanders are one, and they could easily not win the next two games. Like, that's entirely possible. That wouldn't even be the craziest thing. But it's the reason why the Islanders are one win away from defeating the Boston Bruins, and the Leafs haven't sniffed it.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Like that they keep losing to much lesser teams. The Columbus last year, Montreal this year, but Montreal knows who they are. They're not playing, and they're wiping the floor with the Jets.
Yeah,
they're on right now. I don't even know what the score is. I assume
I believe it's tied up right now, 2-2. Last I checked, could have changed. Yeah, 2-2 end of the second period.
Yeah.
Between Montreal and Winnipeg, a commanding 3-0 lead for the Montreal Canadiens. But speaking of superstar power, that is something that maybe the Islanders don't have too much of, right? They got Matt Barzal and they have a couple of other top 6 guys. But superstar power really ends at Matt Barzal. Despite that, though, the Islander power play. Oh, my goodness. 3 for 4 tonight. And that brings their power play percentage in this series up to 42.9%. I don't know in my lifetime if I've ever seen an Islander power play above 30%.
I mean, you have to give them a lot of credit. Tuukka Rask was not good in this game, and your best player on your penalty kill has to be your goalie. So
absolutely,
that's not a good look for them. You saw Nassuamen in for the third period, which I kind of expected, but I wasn't sure, because sometimes it's like a veteran guy like that. You let him play out the game. You never know what your offense can do. They did come within one, so it wasn't crazy to at least bring it to overtime.
Yeah.
Although the Islanders seem to lock it down, but you have to like I said, you have to give the Islanders a lot of credit. They're just moving the puck and they're moving their feet.
Yeah.
They're getting good looks. They're drawing these Bruin penalty killers out of position. They're able to get these seam passes that, Barzal to Eberle play. That's how you would draw it up. That's how you want it to be. And it was a little bit of a broken play. And obviously it was a power play, and there was a player without a stick for the Bruins. So, you have to, the idea is to take
his stick broke.
The idea is that you have to take advantage of the opportunities, and too often there would be essentially what would be a 5-on-2 or a 5-on-3 rather.
Yeah.
Someone without a stick, and the Islanders wouldn't even be able to get a shot on goal. Now it's, as soon as that happens, like 20 seconds later or less, they're scoring a goal.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you brought up the Eberle power play goal too, because my dad had texted me and he said, I really like the way the power play looks right now. It looks real good. And on that particular power play, I had that funny feeling like, oh, here we go again, stagnant, slow Islander power play. They weren't actually moving their feet too much. I know Barzal had gotten the puck, and everybody was just kind of standing around trying to look and see what to do next. And it wasn't fast moving, but then sure enough, Barzal gets some space. He takes the space, makes a perfect dish to Jordan Eberle, and he picks top cheddar to put the Islanders up. I believe it was 4-2 at the time. So, sometimes it's not a perfect play, but when you have a talent like Matt Barzal, who's going at the rate he's going right now, it works out for you. So I'm so glad I wrote an article today, 3 keys to success. And one of those keys was the special teams, because they really needed it to be tonight. And it sure was.
I think too, and I was thinking this during the power play, because the Bruins were able to get the puck and kind of keep throwing it down. And I was thinking, it's not so much that they have a million shots. They just need to take advantage of like very specific opportunities. Treat the power play like they do the rest of the game.
Right.
Where did they get 25 shots this game? Like they had 5 goals on less than 30 shots for sure.
They had 19 shots on goal.
I mean, at that point, think about the power play. I don't care if they're in the zone for all 2 minutes or right. Taking every opportunity for a shot. But when it's too good, you have to capitalize. And I think that's what's happening right now, right? Like they are moving their feet. They are getting more opportunities towards the net, which is obviously important. That's an important part of just having success in the game, right? You can build momentum off of a good power play and just getting those guys, some touches on the puck. But I'm realizing like it doesn't need to be this like unstoppable force. They can just get their chances And if they have any luck like they do at 5-on-5, they'll wind up having success, but they just need to have that prowess that they do at 5-on-5,
Yeah,
which we've seen really the last couple seasons, if not, last 3 seasons, regular seasons, that they have a lot of confidence at 5-on-5. They just need to kind of translate that. And what a time, what a moment
yep,
for the power play to come alive going against, if they make it through the next game and they're going in the next round, that's not a bad thing to have some confidence in, that where they lacked last season for sure. This
absolutely.
team in general looks a lot stronger structure-wise now, playing against a team like Boston versus Philly last year in the second round. I'm super happy with where they are.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Before we move any further, I want to take some questions and comments from our listeners right now in the live stream. And Andre brings up Noah Dobson, and he asks thoughts on Noah Dobson tonight. I thought he was great on the power play, and Andre, I actually agree with you. I was having this conversation with a few people not too long ago, and they were worried about Noah Dobson's play. And someone had noted the power play, and I had said, I honestly think that Noah Dobson's the Islanders' best quarterback on the power play. He's been fantastic at distributing the puck. He's almost like Scott Mayfield in the sense where he kind of knows how to get a puck through the lanes. He finds an open lane to throw pucks on net, and it creates opportunity. So I thought Noah Dobson was really good tonight. Probably one of his best games. I didn't see many turnovers from him. Sometimes he does that. He makes a rookie mistake here and there, but I don't think he did tonight. I think he was pretty solid tonight, down on the third pair and on the first unit power play.
I think Trotz is continuing to be strategic with Green and Dobson to the point where I really only noticed Dobson on the power play. He's there. That pair is just not out there very much. And if they are, the Islanders in the offensive zone, they're making quick transitions through the neutral zone or out of their own zone. They're unnoticeable. You know what? For a third pair, their job is to go out there and just like any on a normal team, a fourth line or a third line, giving the top units a rest. And they're doing more than that. Dobson on the power play is great. In the absence of Leddy, carrying the mail and being more of that offensive defenseman. And, Pulak's really kind of turned on a little bit throughout these playoffs. He's getting a little bit more confident. Haven't seen that much in the last 2 games, but you can kind of tell that he's kind of feeling it a little bit. So it's good to see Dobson have those looks, and he's definitely the future quarterback of the Islanders power play. So it's good that it's kind of banging on all cylinders. He gets to have that little confidence boost, and he looks good. He's not getting bullied around out there, and you would know, Boston's not going to be afraid. So whether it's the line matchups or whatever, he looks pretty good out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I like this comment from Barker. He says that Zajac must have the highest hockey IQ in the league because he looks like the slowest skater on the ice, but is somehow always in the correct position. And yeah, I'll tell you, that's what, being a veteran does for you in the NHL. He's, in his mid-30s now. He's been to the postseason many times, especially with that Devils team back in the early or the early 2000s with Martin Brodeur, Scott Niedermayer, and that superstar lineup of players on the Devils. He's been there before. He knows what he's doing. And I like this comment this morning that he, in a post-practice media availability, he had said something like, now that I'm not on a team where you were only included if you were 25 or under, it's done wonders for my confidence, because he feels more inclusive in the locker room.
Yeah, that's what I said at the top of the segment was that he just is, he feels like he can contribute. He's being asked his opinion or whatever. He's able to contribute as a vet and just kind of do his job.
Yeah. So now that he's on a team where he doesn't feel like, the grandfather in the room, he feels like he's more part of the team rather than trying to help keep the team afloat. So
when you have an Andy Green in your lineup, it makes you feel a little bit younger, even if it's only he's 35 and Green's like 38. It's like not even that big of an age difference, but it makes you feel a little bit
well
younger.
said.
But I mean, their Komarov is not. I think he's under 35.
I think he's 33.
Yeah, I don't other than Green. It's not like, Boychuk is he 36?
Yep.
At a certain point, we can't call these guys old because it's making me feel old, but just because I'm creeping up there towards like what's like, oh, this guy's washed up. He's
Old for
31.
hockey.
Yeah, I'm hockey old
For the NHL.
But yeah, I mean they're out there contributing. I gave them all the credit in the world. They're certainly they're not being I know like our bar is not being a liability. Go out there and just be a net zero. That's fine, But the fact that they're contributing and they're making life really difficult for their team and not letting them get their confidence up, that's great. You know, Green gives up his body. Zajak's playing well in the neutral zone, just making sure pucks are getting deep. I'm confident. It almost happened. There was a 2-on-1 in this game. Zajac and Palmieri are just going to start hooking up for goals soon. I feel it. Like they're on that line together. They're playing long enough. They've played together for a really long time, if not in the same line, just like in the same room. Like I'm waiting for them to just catch fire.
It's possible. It could very much happen. They have the chemistry from playing on the Devils with each other. And Palmieri's playing great, and Zajac maybe not getting hit in the score sheet, but he's playing great as well. And like Barker said, he's in the right place, the right time, all the time. So as much as I love Andy Green on the defense, and I say he could do no wrong, I feel the same way about Travis Zajac
right now
in the forward group right now. That's the parallel. Green, Zajac is the Green of the forward group, and I'm loving it. I'm all for it, baby. So let's keep it
Lou
rolling.
Lamoriello just unapologetically saying, you know what, we're just gonna be the '90s Devils, and you know what, we might win a cup, so I don't care.
Nick Alberga had the tweet of the night tonight after the Islanders scored their fourth power play goal. Third power play goal when Palmieri scored. And he tweeted Lou Lamoriello and Barry Trotz after the NHL trade deadline, and it was Barry Trotz standing up to go and receive his Jack Adams Award, shaking Lou Lamoriello's hand. It was just a perfect tweet. It really was. I'll retweet it. I'll put it on the timeline so you guys can see it as well. Public Enemy number one. One of our favorites actually on Twitter. I have good back and forth with Nick. I enjoy. He's
so good. I'm happy that he jumped on. He's on Hockey Central now.
Yeah.
I think him and Jeff Merrick kind of go back and forth hosting, and which is huge, right? Like he's up there with those guys, and he's super talented, and you just love to see that. He kind of like blew up pretty quickly, and I don't know. I like seeing those success stories.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So congrats to Nick. We loved having you on the pod, and we hope to have you on again soon. Semyon Varlamov gives up another goal within the first 5 minutes tonight.
But he didn't last game.
Now, I don't know. In my opinion, tonight was a little bit different. The Bruins came out shot out of a cannon. They were all over the Islanders to start this game. And the Islanders were on their heels for, I want to say 18 minutes of that first period. They're only 20 minutes. Come on, James. 18 minutes of that first period, the Islanders were on their heels. And the only reason why they were in that first period was because of Semyon Varlamov. That first goal by David Pastrnak was not on Varlamov, really. It was first of all, a snipe, but screened by Brad Marchand, good puck moving by the Bruins. And like I said, they came out shot out of a cannon. It was within the first 5 minutes. Wasn't so much Varlamov's fault as it was on the Islanders as a unit. So
that stuff's going to happen. And I was thinking about that when I turned the game on, and it was already 1-1. And I was like, all right, at least it's tied. I think that's what we were kind of worried about, is like the Islanders aren't even like going in tied at the end of one. They're coming out with 2 periods to go, and they're chasing the game. Now, it's awesome. And I think I wrote about this recently. It's awesome that they're able to come back. I think the team is confident, being down 1 or 2 goals. The later you get into the playoffs, I think obviously the harder it's going to be, because you have less energy. Other teams are kind of ramping up a little bit. They're going to lock it down sooner and not play a ton of offense, and they're just trying to get to the next game. They understand what they're trying to do. A little bit of a game of attrition there. So it's good to see that aspect of the Islanders. But like you said the other day, it was either they need to not let it go up in the first 5 minutes, or they need to escape the first period tied.
Yeah.
And being able to play 2 periods, knowing that all you need to do is score a few goals and then lock it down, Even towards the end of the game, that once, squeaks by the fourth goal for the Bruins, squeaks by Varlamov, and you kind of go, oh boy, is it going to unravel? Because it looked like the Bruins are really pouring it on.
Yeah.
Just like in the beginning of the game where they're going to come out shot of a cannon, they know that they can't let the Islanders, whether or not you believe in momentum from game to game, you can't let them get that stranglehold going back to the Coliseum where they're going to have all the energy. You just know that cannot be an option.
Right.
So they come out flying. You kind of expect that, just like late in the game. You know that they're going to have a big push. So yeah, you're up a couple goals or 2-3 goals. They're going to get one, maybe two. That's why it's good that you had the insurance. That's why the fact that they scored 5 goals in a game and it wasn't 2 empty net goals is kind of amazing.
Yeah. I didn't have a high scoring 5-4 game of my cards tonight. Did you?
No, and it's incredible to see that. And I don't know that I expect it. 5 goals on 19 shots or whatever. I don't expect that ever. That is not a thing that I see going forward. Rask will likely have a good bounce back game. Even if they lose, I expect him to go out playing a pretty good game. He's not that type of goalie. Right. Bruins fans will not have you believe that after tonight, I'm sure, but they're really hard on the guy for whatever reason. So yeah, not what I expected, but it's good to see. Nelson got one after, his first in a while. Eberle got one, I think, since game 5 in the last series.
Yep. Long time coming.
Bailey continues to kind of chug along, contributing here and there. That's great.
That goal by the second line, man. What a tic-tac-toe play.
Yeah, and that's not a play that you expect from this team, right?
Villiers from the wall throws it to Peugeot, and he just bumps it to Bailey, and he was point blank, and he just buried it. And that's Josh Bailey's team second leading, right? How do you say that in English? I can word.
Number 2 in scoring.
Number 2 in scoring. 5th goal of the playoffs, right behind Kyle Palmieri, who had Kyle Palmieri and Josh Bailey leading the team in goals prior to the postseason. Not me.
No, not me either. Although it could have been anyone's guess who was going to be. You could want to say Barzal all day, but you just know that they're going to get contributions up and down the lineup, and it's not a bad player to put your money on in Barzal.
No, I figured that we had we would have Nelson and Beauvillier leading the charge per usual in the playoffs, but it did not. It has not turned out to be just that.
Beauvillier's played well though.
He's played well. Yeah,
I think in the past you see him ebb and flow, and sometimes he's just straight up not noticeable. He's definitely noticeable, whether it's assists, he's getting on the score sheet or not. He's still playing really well, and I think that's the difference. Yeah. And that's the difference, I think, up and down the lineup that you can take for even from maybe the regular season or last year's run, where some guys would kind of disappear. In this particular series, that even happened in the Pittsburgh series this year. In this particular series, they're showing up, like whether they're on the score sheet or not. Everybody's kind of doing a part where like this guy had a really good defensive game. This guy was playing well in the offensive zone. This guy, was more than just not a liability, as we keep saying on the show. So I think that's a really good sign for this team as they move forward, because they're just they're doing a little bit more than just role playing, right? Like they're really all contributing in one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. Quick note on Beauvillier. I think he's playing real well. He's just second guessing himself a little bit in the shot department on when he should shoot. Is it a good shot for him to take? Is it not a good shot for him to take? I saw a play tonight where, rather than pass the puck off like he normally would, he kind of double clutched instead. Maybe he was thinking pass and then he wound up taking the shot. Went just wide of Rask, but at least he took the shot. Good to see him going in the right direction. All other aspects of his game look real good right now. So I'm not too worried about Beauvillier. The second line, that flip-flop of Peugeot and Nelson, I don't know if we'll see it next game because Trotz has last change, so he can match up his lines the way he wants to. So we'll see how that goes. But
it worked. So
it worked.
He don't fix what's broke, but he does often that was good, and then not do it again.
Back to normal.
So it's he's like, well, I didn't fix what was broken. It was just like a tweak. And it's right. You can argue, I suppose we're having hypothetical arguments with Barry Trotz, by the way. This is where
it's just podcast. Barry Trotz's world, and we just live in it. Okay.
We do. I don't know that you can predict necessarily what he's going to do one way or another. Just to kind of go back to Varlamov for a second. He is playing well. I know 4 goals seems like a lot.
Oh yeah,
But
but in a series against the Boston Bruins where they have firepower like David Pastrnak, Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, Taylor Hall, David Krejci, Charlie McAvoy. Listen, he had 40 saves tonight on 44 shots.
again, well, 35 plus saves again.
And this game could have easily have gone the other way. The Bruins could have scored probably 4 goals in that first period.
You
4
need your
goals.
goal. You need your goalie to steal a period. If
And
not
he
a
did.
game, right? But
And he
like
did.
every once in a while, you need them to steal a period, and you just keep them in it. Make it a 2-period hockey game for your team.
And this is what I was talking about when I tweeted out, after that game 3 loss where Brad Marchand throws the puck from the wall and that goal is scored, right? That's the kind of goal that you cannot have against with your starting goaltender. And he righted that wrong, right?
Well, I mean, we had a long conversation about that.
We did.
I don't think we talked about it on the last show, right? Because it was in between.
It was in between. That shot comes from the wall. It's a shot that needs to be saved. There's no question about it. In this game in particular, and in the previous game, in game 4 as well, he stepped up and he showed why he's number 1 goaltender here. A lot of people were calling for Sorokin. It should be Sorokin's net, yada, yada. He's proven it. He should have been nominated for the Vezina. I'm shocked that he wasn't, and I really don't think Philip Grubauer belongs in that conversation.
It's a game played situation.
You're right.
It's that it comes down to that. It's silly rules and voting, and whoever votes for the Vezina, I don't care.
But Vezina aside,
GMs or whatever. Vezina aside,
he proved why he's number 1 goaltender here. He proved why he is the guy right now. It's his net, and if he puts up another stinker, sure, go back to Sorokin. But he made one mistake, a costly mistake. In this series,
you're talking about that's the Marchand goal for you?
The Marchand goal.
I think there was a couple things going on that play. Marchand's coming from the outside. Peugeot doesn't put anything on him. Who was defending? Was it Pulock or Mayfield? I can't remember. Whoever.
It was actually Peugeot and Pulock.
So Peugeot doesn't even put a stick on him. Pulock doesn't step up. And I think my issue is, and Varlamov has to know this, Peugeot has to know this, and Pulock has to know this. Every overtime goal is some bullshit like that. You have to know that's coming. That's how these goals are scored in overtime.
Yeah.
To just be like, oh, he was outside of the hash marks. Forget about the dots. That's how that's going to happen. Like, it's not about those straight on shots. Very rarely is it just like, oh, what a great opportunity. That's a goal scorer's goal. It's no, it bounces off someone's butt or head or from a weird angle, or goalie wasn't set right, which was Varlamov's problem. He wasn't square to the puck. I'm gonna attribute it to just like a bunch of bad plays kind of adding up into one thing, and also that's how those are scored. I'm not gonna sit there and try to
make no mistake about it. Marchand wasn't trying to score there. He was trying to get.
No, he was surprised.
He was trying to throw a puck on net. He thought Varlamov was going to glove it, and there was going to be a face-off. He was shooting for a face-off. What happened was different. He scored a goal.
Well, think about the Patrick Kane goal years ago. I can't believe it. I'm going to have to collect myself thinking about that was 11 years ago. Yep. But the Patrick Kane goal when they beat the Flyers, right? He was halfway down the ice celebrating. He was the only one that they knew scored. It was a dud. Yeah. That was nothing special. It always happens like that. The goals throughout the game are always, it's always overtime, late in the game. It's always like Varlamov, right? That second to last goal. It's just a kind of, and he goes back and it bounces off his back or whatever, squeaks through his glove. That's just how that shit happens.
Right.
So I'm not that surprised. Like, they all should know better, but I'm also like, okay, yeah, that's to be expected.
So a lot of people, including myself, were talking about how the soft goals from Varlamov were becoming a narrative. Now, in my defense, I did not say it should be Sorokin's net moving forward. I just said it was a bit of a concern. But moving forward, Trotz stuck with Varlamov, and I think rightfully so, because aside from that flub of a goal, he was fantastic in that game. Moving forward, game 4, pitches a great game. Game 5, pitched another 40 save win. Despite giving up 4 goals, you can't really fault him for that because it's
a lot of shots.
It's the Boston Bruins, man. 44 shots on net. It's the Boston Bruins. You got David Pastrnak on the other side, who's got a rifle of a shot, a Brad Marchand, a Patrice Bergeron. It's going to happen. They're going to score goals.
It's so funny. I'm thinking, the last game was they finally didn't allow 40 shots in a game for the first time in the series. Immediately go back and allow, and they still managed to win. And it would, looking at it from not an Islander fan perspective for a second, as I crack a beer and celebrate an Islanders win on a podcast, Islander fans get really mad at like the analytic guys and the media, and they look at like, this isn't sustainable. If this was any other team, you'd look at it and be like, no way.
Right.
For whatever, we know too much about this team that they kind of thrive on this. This is like the game plan. I really wish it wasn't, because it's super nerve wracking, because you're like, there's no way they win this series scoring 5 goals on 19 shots. Like, that is not a thing. Tuukka Rask does that once. You hope it's the last game of the series, because he's going to come back with a vengeance, and he's going to shut you down. You're going to score 1 goal next game. I don't know. I don't necessarily think that happens, but that's any other team. You're like, no way. Not against the Bruins. Forget it. You're not scoring. You're not shooting, 19 shots a game and getting 40 against and winning that. That's not a thing.
Well, so you know what? It's interesting, actually, now that I think about it, because there was a ton of chatter before this game that Tuukka Rask wasn't going to start. Somebody within the media said something about, hearing from sources, Tuukka Rask is not going to start Game 5. Sure enough, he leads the Boston Bruins out for Game 5, starts Game 5, and gives up 5 goals. I don't know if those two things correlate. I'm not saying they do, but I'm saying those are two things that did happen.
I mean, we thought the same thing with Varlamov, right? He came back in for Game 2 against the Penguins and looked like shit.
Yes.
And we're like, is he still hurt?
Right.
I don't know that we would have that conversation now, even though he did let up 4 goals in this game, but he's been getting shellacked with 40 shots against every game. He still looks fine. I mean, they're scoring goals because these guys are freaking elite.
Yeah.
But with Rask, that's 5 on. It was much less than 19. I don't know how many shots the Islanders had in the third period, but 4 goals on, let's call it 16 shots or whatever it was after the second period, which means the Islanders had 3 shots in the third, which is a different concern.
Yeah.
You don't want to see that. But then, I guess you're scoring on 1 and 5 in the third period. Like, that's fine.
Islanders had 3 shots in the third period. 3.
Yeah. Yikes, dude. Like, you don't look at that, to my earlier point. You don't look at that and go, oh yeah, Game 6, wrapping it up at home. Not a problem. Like, look, I know how the Islanders playing. I'm like, maybe shoot more. Maybe don't just defend.
Might be a good idea.
Like, I know your game, your the bread and butter of your game is to defend. But like, I don't know, do anything else. Like, you can't. They were gonna pour it on. Like, they were a minute away from scoring another goal. Like, and the Islanders shut it down, and it's whatever. But
to the Islanders' credit, at home in Game 4, they put up 34 shots, and
so they're capable of doing that. Which is, I was super happy to see that they not only did they not allow 40 shots against, but they just very plain and simply outshot the Bruins. Right, that was a very very Islander hockey game. Like, that's what you expected out of them. Or essentially a 2-1 win.
Absolutely.
I'll give, with 2 empty nets. That's perfect. That's playoff hockey. That's Islander hockey. I'm happy to see that. But you can't just go right back to it. And so you have to add, game 6, which, if you're lucky enough to go, if you're listening, live that up, man.
Yeah,
absolutely live that up. It means that there's 2 more games if they win it. But go into that like that's the last one, because this time it really is. Yeah. It's not like these last ones.
No truer statement right now.
That I'm jealous. Somebody I was bartending the other night, and on Sunday afternoon, whatever, I guess, depending on when you're listening to this the other night. And I was wearing my Islander hat because there was one the night before. I just, whatever, I was trying to be a little bit of a homer. And the guy was like, "Oh, you're an Islander fan, blah, blah." And he like turns his phone around and he's like, "Yeah, I was at the Penguins game like last weekend, whatever." And it was like, like I was so jealous that he was there. And because I remember thinking that I was at the last game 6
Yeah.
that the Islanders had. They wound up winning against the Capitals 6 years ago. Who'd think that there'd be a second, maybe last game, but yeah, I mean, just super soak that in. Don't steal any seats this time. You don't need to do that.
True.
Last time there was like pieces of the building being taken home. Most of it was just falling down anyway, which I get. Just take some plaster and put it in your bag, but like don't purposely take it down. You don't need to do that.
God, that's so dangerous. The amount of asbestos that might have come with those people,
dude. It's in someone's mason jar, like on their mantle. It's like, this is asbestos from the Nassau Coliseum. Don't breathe.
I'm gonna sell it on eBay for $500,000.
Yeah, like don't breathe too heavy in this room. We don't know. It's not closed very tight. So it's like I said, just soak that in. The way that they're going right now, I kind of just see them finishing it off. They did this last series, 3 straight wins. It going 7 also wouldn't surprise me. They flipped the narrative of not being able to win on the road. What a huge moment to do that and figure that out in the playoffs. There's no better time. The 2 things that you would have said, this is what's going to kill the Islanders going into the playoffs. Can't win on the road. Power play shit. They've completely flipped that. It's phenomenal to see.
Sorry, my mic was muted there. Did not realize. Absolutely phenomenal to see. And now I think it's time that we talk about the New York Islanders defense, starting with Scott Mayfield. And there was a quote tonight from Pierre McGuire, and I know that we don't always agree with Pierre McGuire's takes, but he had a good one tonight on Scott Mayfield. And his take on him was what a tower of power Scott Mayfield is on the back end for the New York Islanders. And it's completely true. He was just so dominant in his own end tonight. He's such a big body, and he just throws defenders around. Offenders around, and he does the little things right. Really enjoy seeing him get in lanes, clogging lanes, blocking shots. I think at the end of the first period, he had 4 block shots. I think he ended the game with a few more. And the most interesting stat to me is because he's playing so well, he's getting rewarded with that. If this is a reward for a hockey player, he had the most time on ice tonight with 24 minutes and 13 seconds. And that was a full 2 minutes more than the next skater in Adam Pelech.
It's good to see that half of that pair with Leddy is doing better. If he's not stepping up and he's just having a tough go at it, I can't remember if we talked about it earlier on this show or we were texting about it earlier. I think he's just having a tough time with the Bruins. They're just all over. He doesn't have any time. Usually he can kind of create some time and space for himself, and he's just not able to do that. I don't know if he's hurt. He seems a little slower. Doesn't really have that jump, that energy that he normally has. But like I second everything you said about Mayfield. It's awesome to see that he's kind of, he and Pelech were they kind of came up together. Pulak was kind of on a different level. Like you just knew he was going to pop off at some point. Pelech and Mayfield were kind of out of nowhere. And it's good to see Mayfield kind of played up to his full potential. He's always pretty good. He was struggling a little bit, but you knew he could play better. And it's good to see them kind of doing that on a regular basis and maybe propping up Leddy a little bit. But he's doing the safe plays. He's bodying up. He fought Taylor Hall on Saturday, right?
Yes, he did.
Love to see that. I'm sure, and being that he's on the second pair for the Islanders and, there's still Green and Leddy that could, kill a penalty or go out there in his place if needed. That was a good fight for him, right? Like he takes Taylor Hall off the ice for 5 minutes. It's not going to hurt your team. It's not like Adam Pelech did it or
Yeah,
Kulak,
no,
right? Like
it was a smart
he was
fight for
it was
Scott
it was a
Mayfield.
smart fight. No one got hurt. Hall didn't get hurt. Mayfield didn't get hurt, but Hall is off the ice for 5 minutes. I'll take that. That's a great trade-off. So yeah, I give all the credit in the world to Mayfield for kind of turning his game around. Again, I think a lot of players are doing that in a series that you wouldn't have pegged the Islanders to be able to do that. Like against the Bruins, like, oh, they're going to come alive in the playoffs. Like, give Everly a couple more games. Like, he'll figure it out. Against the Bruins, yeah right. Palmieri, oh yeah, he's just going to score 3 more goals in this series. I don't know. It was kind of the Islanders were a little suspect against the Penguins in general. You're like, okay, you really think they're just going to like find their way against the Bruins of all teams? It's not like the Capitals and Philly last year where it was like 2 pretty much the same team. Like you weren't going to get any more out of one or the other. Bruins are a lot better than the Penguins, despite the Penguins winning the division, which bears repeating. But even so, like I said, it's a real big surprise that Islanders are able to kind of turn their whole game around against a really good team.
We'll have to take a poll and get the consensus once the postseason's over, not just yet, on if the Islanders should protect Scott Mayfield from the expansion draft. Because if you ask me, it's no brainer. I mean, I get
is that a 4-4? Is that like what you're suggesting?
No, it's probably going to be over a Nick Leddy. I think, in my opinion, you can expose a Nick Leddy. Dobson is taking another step forward, in my opinion. But Scott Mayfield is by far more valuable with his contract and with his play in this postseason. I don't really know what happened to him in the regular season, but I do foresee this play being the Scott Mayfield, the real Scott Mayfield,
has stood up
for the Islanders. Yeah, I think that this is Scott Mayfield. I don't think that what we saw in the 2020-21 regular season is Scott Mayfield. I don't know. What do you think?
I guess I wouldn't mind that, knowing what might be coming in the pipeline, that maybe Dobson can step up. I think it's just another year that could be a lot of turnover. Like, I'm not entirely sure, and we're jumping into Galaxy Brain off-season mode pretty quickly here. But I think knowing what you have in Dobson, I guess that's good. It's 2 right-handed shots. You're not really sure if Green's gonna come back. To have even more turnover after another year of turnover on D, and really only having those 3 left after having, you just lost 50% again of your D, or a little bit less than that this time around. That's tough. Andre is making a point here in the chat or in the comments. Leddy won't be claimed. That's probably true. I could probably get on board with that. And what does Leddy have 1 more year left? Also crazy to think about.
I believe so. Yeah.
With how long he's been on, and that means Boychuk also has technically 1 year left, although he's on LTIR. Could Bolduc be ready? It's entirely possible. Depends on the salary cap situation and whether or not he can be up. You gotta find a way. Is Hickey's second? This is his last year.
I think he has 1 more year.
So he has 1 more year.
Yeah.
I don't know if you keep him around. Can you bury him? Who's the guy they traded for? There was somebody that came in that we just we'll never ever see again and out on the jersey.
Oh, Braden Coburn.
Yeah, Braden Coburn. So you don't really have to worry about him. Geez, that's terrible. Sorry, dude. You're in the NHL. Obviously, you're not a hack, unlike me and Mike Kitchen on a podcast. Jesus Christ. Anyway, it's entirely possible. I don't necessarily think he gets claimed. I think Lou does some magic anyway. Like, I'm not sure that we should be painstakingly, the 2 of us or the team at the Hockey Writers or any other site, other than Arthur Staple, I don't think anybody should be writing about the expansion draft for the Islanders. Lou will figure something out.
Yep.
I'm also not concerned about any of their offseason RFA signings. I think the questions remain that aren't like ground shaking things, or does Palmieri come back? Are there any other trades that they can make, or stuff like that, which is kind of at this point, with where the Islanders are going, say they win on Wednesday night, I don't give a shit who they sign. They can figure it out. They've just managed to find out, here are our guys. Whoever comes in, they play their role. We're gonna win. I really do want Kyle Palmieri to come back. If Green could be the seventh defenseman, that'd be great. If he takes a league min, I think, obviously Anders Lee is back. Walsham's obviously going to step up. Maybe Bells finds a way to really, really impress people in camp. If anything, maybe he's a trade piece. So, I'm not really concerned. I don't know that we need to worry about that stuff, especially not right now. There's still some hockey field to play.
Definitely.
At least two more games.
Let's leave the off-season talk for the off-season. But we have a Bruins fan in the chat, and he actually brings up a good question about a Patrice Bergeron narrative that's been going on for the past few games. And It's Gear asks, how do you feel about the Bergeron situation? I'm interested from a Bruins fan.
Can you fill me in here? Is there,
if you're unfamiliar, yeah. So Barry Trotz had claimed that Patrice Bergeron was taking a bit of an advantage in the faceoff circle, maybe cheating a little bit despite not winning those faceoffs.
You sure that wasn't Butch Goring saying that?
No, it was Barry Trotz, and I forget Bergeron's exact comments on it. But he said, that's I think him defending his team or something like that. If I was a coach, I would do it too. Yada yada. But on his first faceoff of the night, he was yet again called and thrown out of the faceoff circle for an illegal faceoff move. So my thoughts on it, I'm not exactly sure because he's so good at faceoffs that I'm not exactly sure what it is that he's doing that's getting him thrown out of the faceoff circle. But I have to say, if Trotz is calling it out and the referees are agreeing and throwing him out of the faceoff circle, he's got to be doing something wrong.
Yeah, I mean, if the linesmen are throwing him out, he's doing something wrong. As a former faceoff guy, I think that was pretty much the only thing I was good at. The older I got, that was like the last skill from that kind of fell off my radar. I was the faceoff get off guy for a long time. You got to cheat to be good. I don't do that now. I kind of forgot all those little things that you used to do. But you got to be a little quick. You got to, read the linesmen throughout the game and try to figure out what they're going to do before the other guy does. But, at the pro level, I'm sure it's really hard. But yeah, you're gonna do that. You're going to find a way to kind of cheat. Anything you can do to, get your hand real low, makes it really hard for the other guy. You're reading the linesman, a whole bunch of little things. You're jumping a little bit. Yeah. You don't blame him for doing it. I don't really care about that. I mean,
yeah, I think
if you're not cheating, you're not trying. It's the face-off too, right? Like it's not like hooking calls or spearing or some shit like that.
Yeah, I think Andre hit the nail on the head here too, because I was gonna say that I think that this is what it was. Andre says Bergeron is not stopping to take the face-off, so meaning when he's approaching the dot, he's also swiping at the puck to win the face-off draw, and I believe
he's using momentum, which is
right.
You can't do that. You have to have your feet on the line, right. Which is another problem. Like at every level, everybody kind of just tries to get any little advantage, and you're like, "Oh, my toes on the." No, it's not. Square up.
Yeah,
get your stick on the ice.
I think that's something that at the end of the regular season, because Zibanejad had a bit of an issue with as well. He was getting called for, continuing his momentum into the face-off dot and trying to win a face-off draw that way. So you have to be still. You have to be between the hashes, and you gotta, be ready to take a face-off in a set position. So, but I think that's about it for us tonight, pal.
Yeah, I don't have a ton left. I always think of something after the show, and I'm always like, man, I wish I would have wrapped up with this, but. Sometimes it gets harder when the Islanders are playing well. Like they still let up 4 goals. You can dissect them Steve Dangle style, I guess, every single time, right? Like you can just and I just feel for that guy. If you want to take a moment, I'll pour one out for him after this. But sometimes it's like the Islanders are playing well. You can only talk so long about them
Their success.
their success, right? Like, I don't want to go like too far into this, but like, go please enjoy that game.
Yeah.
They have a chance to, for 2 series in a row for the first time in like 2 decades in a millennia. It seems that they get to close out a series at home and move on to an Eastern Conference final for the second year in a row. And so we asked, I'll flip our reporter journalist hats here for a second. I'll ask you a question for a change. I think late in the season or early in the playoffs, right before the playoffs, I asked what's success mean to you, right? For this team, like how far do they make it? What seems like they left something on the table? What seems like they took another step? Reframing that question, we're obviously coming off of a win. We have a game 6 where they have the possibility of moving on and closing it out against a really good team. I'm personally wouldn't be surprised if it goes 7 still. It's the Boston Bruins. They're very capable.
Right.
What's success for the Islanders right now? What does it look like to you?
It's interesting because, I agree with you. It's the Boston Bruins. And if it does go 7 games and they end up dropping in 7 games, this series was so close that they proved yet again. And I don't know if I could say that they proved it. They just maintained their status yet again with being able to run with the big dogs in the NHL. They go toe-to-toe with the Bruins despite their lack of superstar talent on the roster. So, is it a success still if they drop to the Bruins? I think so. I think it was a very successful postseason. You got a lot out of some guys who you were looking for more from, like Palmieri, like from Mayfield. And, we'll see what that results in for Palmieri in the offseason, a conversation for another time. But then again, who are we likely to see again in the Eastern Conference final? And that's the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Oh, the storyline is unreal.
It's unreal.
If they go back and play Tampa again, and it make it a series, even if they lose, if they can make it a series.
And they're essentially coming back with the same roster. We're coming back with essentially the same roster. And it's just, here we go again, round 2.
You forget it did go 6 games last year. Like maybe I forget. I say I forget that it went 6 games last year, and it was like there was a lot left to be desired from the Islanders' end of that series.
Yeah,
I'll be the first one to admit that they were definitely not the better team. Even in the games they won, they were not the better team. You knew Tampa was rolling. They're just really, really talented. This time around, they're rolling and they're still playing really well, but I think the Islanders are tighter than they were.
Absolutely.
And you can only say that against a team like Boston, right? Who can do both. They can play like the Lightning and they can score a ton of goals and they can lock it down. They are if the Islanders overcome the Boston Bruins, to me, they're flipping spots, right? When we talk about teams in the East, they're either deadlocked, and they're the ones that have to go through each other. There are the Penguins and the Capitals all those years and all that kind of stuff. Or the Islanders overcome them a little bit. So there's an opportunity there for them to then, take that next step then and for the Lightning. And for what it's worth, what I think, man, it would be great if they just make it back to the Eastern Conference final.
Yeah.
Like that to me would just be this, and not that it wouldn't be a success necessarily to like bring the Bruins to the brink when nobody it wasn't even close. But yeah, making it back to that final again would just, for the fan base going into Belmont, for the future of the franchise, for this off season, even with the flat cap now, and for as far as we can see into the distance, I think it does a lot for this franchise. So like that would be super success to me. But I agree with you that if they bring it to 7 games and they lose, and it's at least a good last 2 games, you hate to see them drop 2 in a row. I don't see it. I honestly, at this point,
I don't.
Which I didn't think that I would say. I never thought in this series it'd be like the Islanders will not lose 2 in a row.
I don't see it happening.
But I don't either. And it feels what is this feeling? Is this confident thing that I feel like? What is that?
I had Bruins in 6. I had them winning tonight and going back to Nassau and closing it out, because I didn't think that they were. I thought that they were very capable of, once they saw the door open, busting right through it and claiming this series. But now that things have changed, I don't know. Going back to the Coliseum, I don't even know if it goes 7 games. I think that the Coliseum, the sixth man.
I need that to happen. I want them just blow the doors off that place, and the Islanders just play well.
Is very much, whether players want to admit it or not, that sixth man is very much an influence on the game. It was tonight for the Bruins. Their fans got them back in it. They were down 3 goals and they came back, scored another 2, and then they were only down by 1. But the Islanders were able to weather that storm. But going back to what you were saying before on, they're much tighter this year. I think you're right. 100%. You're so right in saying that, again, basically the same group coming back, playing the same system, but that much tighter. And maybe this is what changes that series against the Lightning. If they make it, that makes the Islanders be able to maybe push past them and reach the promised land.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I had to draw it up and be as objective as possible, Islanders, how does the Islanders season end? Game 7 against the Lightning. If it gets that far and they really give them a run for their money, and you know what?
That's a successful season.
Oh my, above and beyond for how they were in the regular season. And, you start believing a lot of the media members and how they're playing, and they're kind of sleepwalking through the last third of the season. It seems it's easy to see what they're seeing. We're watching it. We were doing a show once a week on this stuff. It's not difficult to see that they were playing like shit.
Yeah.
This team, however, they just give us such high hopes. Even after that series of the Lightning last year, we're like,
yeah,
what the hell just happened? I can't even believe they made it to Game 6.
And that series was a lot closer than it appeared.
I don't know that I agree with that. They were outplayed.
In the first game, they were outplayed. In the rest of the 100%. Series, it was closer than that. The first game, they were demolished. After that, it was closer than what most realize, in my opinion.
I mean, maybe it was closer than I remember, but I don't remember. They were super outshot, and they weren't even. They were winning the games 2-1. I don't know.
They were always super outshot. Look at tonight, 44-19.
Yeah, but at least they're getting looks at times. I think it's different when it's 19 shots on goal. But I think my favorite stat is the high danger. What does that look like? High danger chances for and against for each team in each game. That to me tells a really good story. The Islanders seem to just hold the puck until they have that higher danger opportunity, which I guess good on them, or they're off the rush or whatever the case is. The 5-on-5 to me is really important. They've also stepped up on the power play, which is awesome. And on, I think that high danger stuff is really important.
Yeah.
So that's, I'd have to go back and look at the stats from that series last year to be able to tell the difference. And that would kind of maybe push me one way or the other, but
yeah,
I don't know. The eye test wasn't great. They had their moments against them where they looked pretty good, but it wasn't anything that they could do with some sort of consistency. So now thinking about it this year, Kucherov's on a tear. They have Stamkos for the entire run. They are really top heavy. If the Islanders, I know we're skipping way ahead, but it's not unlike this series with the Bruins, where the Bruins really top heavy and they have really good goaltending. They had really good defense. They're kind of, Islanders are taking advantage of some injuries there for sure. The Lightning, same way, except their defense is still intact for now.
Well, that was then. This is now. And the Islanders still have a series to win against the Bruins. Back to the barn for Game 6 on Wednesday. 7:30 start, I believe.
Yeah, can you text me the start of the game so that I don't miss it again? Because I'm fucking sick of this.
Yep. Yep. 7:30 start Wednesday. Back at the barn for Game 6. That barn will be rocking. There is no doubt about that. 12,000 strong. Will sound like 25. But that's it for us this week, everybody. We want to thank you for the kind words in the chat. We appreciate all the
I love that.
Great show. We appreciate all that stuff.
Even from a Bruins fan, I love.
Even from a Bruins fan,
and we try to do the same thing. We appreciate other teams and all that other stuff. We're not going to pretend like the Islanders are the only team in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
If only you saw our group chat.
Yeah.
Which we will not do. We will not show anybody.
We want to say thank you to the Hockey Podcast Network, the Hockey Writers, and of course, all of you, our listeners. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to or watch the show. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Nassuamen Hockey, and you can find our work at the Hockey Writers. Turn on those notifications for notifications when we go live, and you can join us whenever we are here, usually once a week post-game, depending on the game. Until next time, everybody, let's go Islanders.